So today we're gonna be doing a medium-high skin fade on my client, Jarrett. I'm gonna be teaching you guys the exact system that I use day in, day out inside the barbershop to cut about 90 people a week. So this system is one that I use on every single one of my clients. It doesn't matter the hair texture or the hair length. Also, it's a quality system, and also it's very, very efficient to where I can do haircuts in about 30 to 40 minutes, very consistent. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna wet his hair. We're just gonna kind of even it out the top, and we're gonna also create a foundation on the sides to fade into. Now you can see that he doesn't have any product in his hair, and that was intentional. I try to do the best that I can to educate my clients how beneficial it is for them to come into the barbershop with no product, with clean hair. That way we don't have to spend any time washing their hair. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fully kind of saturate the hair. Now we are gonna be doing a hard part on the sides, clean up the eyebrows. So the first thing is that we're gonna actually part out the hair. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna part off the long hair on the top from the short hair on the sides. And I'm always gonna reference the back kind of like swirl area because I wanna cut the hair in the direction that it naturally wants to lay. We're gonna be doing a skin fade. What I wanna do is find his parietal ridge by using my comb on the side of his head. And I wanna have my fingers very, very tight to his scalp because that's gonna give me the foundation to fade into. So I'm gonna use the fine teeth of my comb. I'm gonna go find that parietal ridge where his head kind of starts to kind of round in a little bit. Grab the hair, pull it towards me. Fingers are tight to the scalp. And then we're just gonna go ahead and continue this guide all the way around his head. Now I wanna contour this fade to his head shape, right? I wanna tailor the haircut to him. So as his kind of head drops in the back, I'm gonna be dropping this line. Sometimes clients will have like very sensitive kind of swirls or cowlicks in the back where the hair will stand up. So sometimes dropping the fade a little bit in the back helps to keep some more length back here so you don't run into that problem. And that's a very common problem with a lot of clients' haircuts whenever they come in for the first time. So if you can solve that problem for your client, you're gonna lock more guys in. So we're gonna just continue this all the way around. And I'm keeping, really good tension on the hair, fingers on the scalp. Depending on how long he wants the front, when it comes to about this area where it's past the ear, I will go and actually section the sides from the length on top, section that off, and then now I'm gonna continue this line kind of like how I had it on the other side. Now I'll go and I'll kind of comb that top piece back down and I'll continue to trim. Now my fingers are a little bit away from the scalp to keep it a little bit longer. You can see now I'm angling my fingers down a little bit. He likes the length on top, so we're not gonna really trim anything crazy. I'm just gonna make sure that it's going in evenly. And we'll start in the front and we'll just kind of go and pick this front section of hair up and we'll just trim a little bit just to make sure that it's growing even. Now what I'll actually do is I'll step to the side, pick all the hair up, and now here I can control whatever shape I want for the haircut. If I want the front to be longer than the back, I can do this. If I want it to be very square and even, I can do this. Some haircuts I'll actually do it even like this, or if I wanted it to be rounder, I can control whatever shape and length I want. So I'll just go straight here, pull all this hair to the middle. You see I'm barely cutting anything, and that's purposeful. Now remember, if he has a springy cowlick, I don't want to round this too much here because then it's going to be shorter in the back. So I would actually go and just pull this hair straight up. And now you can see it's a small difference from what I cut in the length here. So I'll just go and now I'll just pick up the hair about finger width sections, going back a little bit at a time to trim this. And honestly guys, when you take a little bit more time in the beginning of the service to make sure that you're cutting the top right, man, there's like the cross-checking that you have to do is so much less because you're doing it just better the first time around. Now I would use this same system if I was doing a crop top, if I was doing like a pompadour kind of slick back or whatever, I would use this exact same system. So I'm gonna go and take my hair dryer on high heat, high speed. I just wanna completely blast the hair and get it as dry as quick as possible. I'm moving the hair around. I want it, the airflow from the blow dryer to get in and dry the hair. You can see that I didn't really dry the top, and that's because it doesn't matter right now, right? Now, something that I use to keep my fade super consistent and spread out pretty nicely is I'll use what I learned to call the 3-finger technique, where it's gonna show you the width of your guidelines and also how to keep them symmetrical throughout the fade. Now he wants a medium-high skin fade, so I'm gonna take the C cup out, but I'm not gonna go super high with the fade. I'm just gonna kind of spread it out, drop it towards the back. Now the first step that I wanna do is I wanna debulk. Now I'm gonna take this 3, which I'm using to debulk and kind of clear the canvas. I'm gonna go ahead and run this straight into that first line that I kind of set in with my fingers on the scalp. And then I'll do this all the way around. When I'm cutting here in the shop, I don't go ahead and do like one side, the other side and stuff like that. If I have this guard, I'm gonna use this guard as much as possible while I have it already in my hand, just to be more efficient. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna set in our bottom line. We're gonna use that with the trimmer. Go and hit that corner right here. 3 lines, boom. And I'm gonna show you guys why I use this technique. It keeps it very, very, very beginner friendly, and it's really hard to mess up. Now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna clear out all this bulk at the bottom. Now you can see too that I didn't use my trimmers like this. And the reason why is because if your trimmers are too sharp and you do that, the line that you set in is gonna be a lot harder to take out. And that's where a lot of, kind of beginner barbers, even myself, struggled with that. So my suggestion is to debulk the area first so you don't have a bunch of hair that's overhanging, and then go ahead and set in your trimmer line with the trimmer like this. Now a big thing with the foil shaver is just that when you get closer to that line, that you lighten up the pressure pretty much. Down here, I can go with both foils. I can really go ham here, but as I get closer to that top line, I'm gonna lighten up in pressure. I might only use one of the foils. Just lighter pressure at the top, lighter pressure at the top. Because if you don't set in a super hard line, you don't have to take it out. Now, this is literally how our guidelines are gonna look. Clipper open, set in that first guideline, all the way around. I'm using a brush to, brush away all that debris. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Now, you see how it's already kind of playing it apart. Now I got to set in that second guideline. My one guard on my clipper, it's all the way open. Keeps everything symmetrical, proportional. It's going to be a lot easier to kind of keep track of, what step you're in. Same thing over here. Now that my 3 lines are set in, now I can already start fading out right now. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna close my one. So now I have a one closed, and I'm gonna start softening up this middle line right here. And from here, you can choose whether you want to fade up or fade down. It's completely up to you. And that's where you can kind of tailor the system to however you want to go here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use my 2 right into the 3. Start to soften up this line as well. Soften this up. Really, right now, this is all a part of my rough draft, just to get the first kind of like draft of the fade done. After all this is done and I line them up, that's when I'll actually go ahead and detail. But right now, I just want to get through this. So now you can see I still have these faint guidelines so I can stay on track. Now I'm gonna go with my clipper all the way closed, and I'm gonna go about halfway up this first panel. Literally going half the way up. Then I'll use the clicks on my clipper. I'll just one click. I'll go up a little bit more. Then I'll go up one more click, and I'll finish out the rest of that panel. At the shorter length, I'll use a brush. At the longer length, I will use a comb. Then what I'll do is I'll take my half guard, and I will start halfway open, and I will go and knock out this line. Very soft pressure, soft pressure. I don't want to go up too high. I'm just really focusing on just blending this line in. And then, if you need to do a little bit of lever play, knock out a couple spots you see really quickly, you can. But then that'll be go, and that will be faded out. Then, to finish the rough draft, I'll go with my 1.5 guard, still halfway open, and I'll hit this kind of soft line up here. Same thing, really soft pressure, not going up too high, just going to kind of knock out that line. And then I would go and do this around the whole, like his whole head. Then I would line him up, and then we would go into detail work. That's one of the tricks behind you being able to put out a really good haircut in less time, because you get so good with a system that your rough draft can sometimes be the best haircut that somebody's gotten, just because you move very thoughtfully throughout the process. And now I'll go and I'll do this around the whole head. Now I'm about to go and I'm about to line him up and put the hard part in, but I'm gonna knock down his eyebrows as well. I'm gonna take the one guard open and go right over his eyebrows. The one guard open, majority of the time, is gonna leave it at a good length so where the eyebrows don't get too light, but there's not a lot of hair where, their eyebrows are eyebrow hairs are like moving around and stuff like that. Now we're gonna go, and before we get into detailing and stuff like that, we're actually gonna go and line them up. So I'm gonna line up just his vertical bars here. Super light, natural. Remember, he doesn't have a C cup because we did more of like a medium high fade without it. Eyebrows, I just kind of groom them. I don't go too crazy. I don't go too defined or too sharp. This corner of the hair that falls, we'll clean that up a little bit as well. Now, when it comes to the hard part, I like to kind of stand over the hard part, comb all this hair away, comb this hair down. What I'll always do with a hard part is I'll go and I'll just make one line and I'll purposely keep it thin as possible while still being, you know, noticeable and clean. Then what I would do is later on when I use the straight razor, I would clean this up, make it a little bit thicker, but that way I can have a very defined hard part without having a very wide hard part. Usually clients don't like to have it, you know, too wide. They want to be able to see it, but they don't want like a racing stripe down the middle of their head. And this is how I do that. I make a very thin line with my trimmer, and then I'll clean it up with the razor after that. Then I'll come over here, do the same thing. It's something about whenever you line up the haircut that it lets you see so many more areas in the fade that you want to work on. If you want it to be more of a volume barber, right, and you just want to get as many people out as possible, you might leave the haircut right here, style them up, and then just send them out the door. But if you want it to be a barber where you're okay with doing a little bit less volume, but more quality, eventually charge a higher price per haircut because you're putting more time into the haircut, then you would take this time and detail the haircut, and that's what I like doing. I'll purposely get through the rough draft faster so I can spend more time detailing the haircut. What you're really looking for whenever you're detailing is just like a very nice even gradients from top to bottom, and you want it to match from left to right. You just want it to flow really nicely. Sometimes people have kind of like dips or bumps in their head that'll kind of change the shade of it. Like if somebody has a dip in their head, it might look darker right here, or if somebody has a part of their head that kind of protrudes, that kind of come towards you, that part might be a little bit lighter, and you want to even shade against the whole fade. Now what I've learned is that majority of like the gradients of a fade, right, majority of that, what makes a fade look really, really good and gives it that pop is from the skin to the one open. All the guards above that, like the 2, the 3, the 4, they blend into each other really well to where you're not gonna see a big difference in the gradients. So for me, since I have the 3-finger technique, if it's something in this area, I know it might be a 1, I know it might be like a half guard. Since I use that technique, I kind of know what guard to detail what area, or at least what guard to start with. Sometimes barbers will run into the problem of, oh man, I want to detail, I don't want to mess it up, I don't know what guard to start with whenever I'm detailing a fade, right? Because you don't want to go too short because you might end up pushing the whole fade up. So what do? What I do is I'll purposely start with a higher guard than what I think, and I'll work my way down slowly. Maybe I want to detail this area, right? I want to kind of lighten it up a little bit. It looks a little bit darker than over here. So this is what I'll do. I might think it's a 1, but I'll purposely start with something like a 2. And I'll cut over the area. And my clipper's not cutting, I'm not seeing any hair falling, the shade of it isn't changing at all. So then I'll slowly work down in my guards until I start to cut a little bit of hair, until it starts to lighten up a little bit. And that's how you can troubleshoot. It's almost like using like a process of elimination to find out, okay, what guard do I use to detail this spot? And I'll slowly just work down bit by bit. I'll start with my lever open, I'll go to my lever close, and I'll just slowly work down until I find the guard that actually will do it. And sometimes I'll start with a 2, and man, if the spot that I'm seeing might not come out until I'm all the way like clipper open, or maybe even clipper a little bit closed a little bit, just to detail that spot. And this is where you can really train your barber's eye right now. Now, one thing that I'll tell you is you might think like, man, why does my fades come out so much better on one client versus the other? And sometimes, you know, you don't know like what makes a better client, what makes a worse client, or what makes a kind of tougher fade. And what it really is, one of the big factors is the shape of their head. You can see Jared here, the sides of his head is very smooth and even. He doesn't have a lot of areas where the skull will like dip in or like protrude out. It's very flat and even. Versus if he had like a big dent in his head right here, this area would naturally be darker, and I would have to really lighten it up for it to match the other areas as well. So a pretty common theme too is in the back, usually the hair's a little bit denser, a little bit thicker, so you actually have to work at it a little bit more.
Here I have Tomb45's Pure Powder. It provides light movable volume to many hairstyles. My favorite is to use it in a comb over or a messy cropped look, and it's definitely easy for your clients that don't really want to put in a lot of work to style their hair in the morning.
So now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna actually use the razor on the hard part to kind of widen it up a little bit, but most importantly to make it more defined so it could stand out a little bit more without having to make it, you know, super wide and bulky. So I'll just kind of go with my hand, push the hair away, and I'm just doing very, very small passes with my razor to make it more defined without having to make it super, super wide. They want to be able to notice their hard part, but they don't want like a racing stripe in their head. So I'll do that small pass with the trimmer, and then I'll come here with the razor to really widen it up a little bit while keeping it thin. And this is the same process that I would do where, like, you know, somebody had like a slash in their eyebrow. You don't want to go and take off somebody's whole eyebrow, right? Hello, hello. Always greet clients when they come into the barbershop. Don't be that guy that you don't want to greet no clients, especially if they're your clients. Barbers be too bougie nowadays, man. They be too cool to greet their own clients. It's like, bro, you don't even understand. There are some clients that are passing tens and tens and tens of, sometimes hundreds of barbers to just sit in your chair. If you can't show a little bit of appreciation and respect by greeting somebody whenever they come into the barbershop that you work at to pay you money to cut their hair, it's like, bro, what's wrong with you? You tripping. You are weird. We are gonna be using Tomb45 Indestructible Clay for an indestructible hairstyle. It is a matte product with a high hold and a very nice textured look, and we're gonna be putting it into my client's Jarrett hair today. Apply a little bit of water into his hair. We have just a little bit of the product. This stuff is super strong. You don't need too much. You're gonna put it into the palm of your hand, and you're gonna slap it, rub it, put it all inside of the client's hair from the top to the bottom. And now we're gonna blow dry the style. Starting in the back, I'm gonna go ahead, put my thumb over the swirl so all this lays down really nicely. Dry the sides and dry the back. And I'm gonna not worry about the top just yet. I'm gonna blow dry his hair going back, and I'm gonna comb it in that same direction. Making sure to volumize the front. This is just helping to get some of the flyaways. So you just do like a very light dusting of the hairspray. And I'll take just my hand, and that way it just kind of goes and softens that up.